Welcome to Pause and Respond. I'm Josua Rine, licensed professional counselor. And in today's episode, we're going to explore one of the most confusing experiences of being a human. Why you can feel deeply loved and still feel lonely. And perhaps by the end of our time together, you'll discover that loneliness isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's an invitation. Love is powerful, but love does not satisfy every human hunger. And perhaps that's an uncomfortable thing to say or even hear. Because we want love to solve everything. We want love to remove loneliness, to answer every question, to heal every wound. But what if that's too much to ask of love? What if love and loneliness are not enemies? What if they can exist together? How can you feel lonely when you know you're loved? How can someone tell you they love you and you still feel alone? How can you sleep beside someone every night and yet continue to miss them? And maybe that's why loneliness feels so confusing. Because when you're lonely, you start asking questions. Questions that make you feel guilty. Questions that may make you wonder if something is wrong with you. Questions that you might not want to say out loud. Why do I feel this way? Why isn't love enough? Why do I still feel alone? Am I ungrateful? Am I asking for too much? And many people quietly conclude after asking these questions that something must be wrong with them. But perhaps nothing is wrong with you. Because some of the loneliest people in the world are deeply loved. Some are married, some are parents and pastors, therapists, caregivers and leaders. Some are providers. Some are surrounded by people who genuinely love them. And yet, something inside them still aches. Not because they're selfish or broken, but because they don't appreciate, not because they don't appreciate the people around them, but because perhaps being human carries a hunger that love alone cannot satisfy. Maybe she's a mother. Everyone needs her, everyone loves her, everyone appreciates her. But somewhere beneath all the responsibilities, she wonders, does anyone really know me anymore? Not mom, not the person who cooks, not the person who keeps everything together, but her. Maybe he's a husband, a father, a provider. People appreciate him. People depend on him. People respect him. And sometimes, lying awake at night, he quietly wonders, if I stopped producing, if I stopped fixing, if I stopped caring everything, would anybody still know me? Not what he does, but just him. Maybe he or she is a therapist who spends all day listening to everyone else's fears, everyone else's pains and stories, and then goes home and wonders, who asks about me? Who knows what it's like to be me? Maybe they're a pastor, surrounded by people, loved by people, needed by people, yet quietly lonely. Because being surrounded by people and being known by people are not always the same experience. Perhaps that's because human beings carry many different hungers. We hunger for safety and purpose and success. We hunger for approval, achievement, to be needed. And being needed feels good. It feels important and meaningful. But perhaps there is another hunger beneath all of those. A quieter, deeper hunger. A hunger that many people spend decades trying to feed without realizing what they're actually starving for. Not admiration or success, not appreciation or even love, but something else, something harder to describe. To be known, to be seen, to be understood and chosen. Not for what that person provides, or not for what you provide, not for what you accomplish or produce, but for who you truly are. And perhaps that's why some people have everything they thought they wanted and still feel empty. Because you can feed many hungers while starving the deepest one. Maybe you felt that. Maybe you've been appreciated but not understood, needed but not known. Maybe you've heard the words, "I love you," and quietly thought, then why do I still feel so alone? Maybe that thought scared you because you felt guilty for having it. You told yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe other people have it worse, or I should just be grateful. And so you judge yourself, you minimize your loneliness, you try to talk yourself out of it. But the loneliness doesn't disappear simply because you feel guilty for having it. And perhaps the deepest loneliness isn't the absence of people. Perhaps it's the feeling that nobody truly sees you, that nobody truly knows, nobody truly understands what it's like to be you. And that's because there is a difference between being loved and being known. And perhaps that's the conversation we need to have. Not because love isn't powerful, but because love doesn't satisfy every hungry. And perhaps that's why some of the loneliest people in the world are deeply loved. Perhaps that's why being needed can be so confusing, because being needed feels good. It feels important, meaningful. It might give us purpose. People depend on us and appreciate us. People may even thank us. And if we're honest, being needed can feel a lot like being loved, but they're not the same thing. Because people can need what you do without knowing who you are. People can appreciate your sacrifices without understanding your fears. People can admire your strength without touching your loneliness. People can love your competence without ever seeing your heart. And perhaps that's why so many strong people quietly ache, not because they're unloved, but because they're unknown. And that's because being needed is easier than being known. Being needed feels safe. Being known can feel dangerous. Being needed requires performance, while being known requires vulnerability. Being needed asks, what can you do? Being known asks, who are you? And perhaps some people would rather be admired than exposed, because admiration is safe. Exposure to some can be terrifying. Maybe that's why some marriages survive for decades without either person ever fully feeling known. Not because they don't love each other, not because they're not committed, but because usefulness feels safer than honesty. Performance feels safer than authenticity. Strength feels safer than need. And that's the tragedy. People spend years becoming valuable while remaining unseen. Maybe he's the one everyone depends on. He fixes things, carries things, provides, solves problems. People trust, appreciate, and respect him. But nobody asks him how he's doing. And if they did, he wouldn't know what to say. Because somewhere along the way, he learned that his value comes from what he carries, not from who he is. But lying awake at night, he quietly wonders, if I stopped producing, if I stopped fixing, if I stopped carrying everything, would anybody still choose me? Maybe she's the center of everything. Everyone needs her, loves her, appreciates her. She keeps the schedules, remembers the birthdays, plans the vacations, makes sure everyone is okay. And perhaps she quietly wonders, would anyone recognize me if I stopped taking care of everyone else? Not mom, not the organizer, not the caretaker, but just me. Maybe he's caring for aging parents, children, work, responsibilities. Everybody needs something. Everybody needs him. And perhaps he quietly thinks, I can't fall apart. People are counting on me. And perhaps nobody realizes that the strongest people are often loneliness. Not because they're unloved, but because nobody knows what they carry. And perhaps beneath every human heart lives a simple question. Not, will I be successful? Not, will I be admired? Not even, will I be loved? But something far more vulnerable. If you really knew me, would you still choose me? Would you still choose me if I stopped being strong? Would you still choose me if I disappointed you? Would you still choose me if I wasn't useful? Or if I needed something? Or if I stopped my performance? Because we don't fear loneliness as much as we fear being known. Because being known means being seen, and being seen means risking disappointment. And that's why so many people spend their entire lives being useful. Because usefulness feels safer than vulnerability. Achievement feels safer than honesty. And performance feels safer than authenticity. And eventually people begin asking, do people love me? Or do they love what I do? And the great tragedy is this. People spend years feeding the wrong hunger. They spend it feeding success, approval, achievement, even recognition. They spend it trying to be needed, admired, and being useful. All the while the deepest hunger quietly remains. Not to be impressive, not to be appreciated, not to be needed, but to be known. And perhaps that's why people who seem to have everything can still feel empty. Because you can feed many hungers while starving the deepest one. And that's why being needed feels good. But being known heals something much deeper. Because what we fear most is also what we need most. To be fully seen, fully known, and somehow still chosen. Maybe loneliness isn't the enemy. And that's a strange thing to say, because nobody enjoys loneliness. Nobody welcomes it or asks for it. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid it, trying to silence it or distract ourselves from it. They may even try to stay busy enough not to feel it. But what if loneliness isn't always something to escape? What if loneliness is trying to tell us something? That we're not broken or ungrateful, but that something inside of us is still hungry. Because hunger isn't the enemy. Hunger is information. Physical hunger tells us when we need food. Thirst tells us when we need water. Fatigue tells us when we need rest. And loneliness tells us something too. Maybe our loneliness or disconnection is telling us that we were created for something deeper. Maybe you've spent years trying to get rid of your loneliness, trying to work harder, achieve more, stay busy. And perhaps none of those things have worked. Because you cannot satisfy the hunger to be known by becoming more impressive, or becoming more productive, or by becoming more needed to those around you. And that's why some people spend their entire lives succeeding while secretly starving. Not because success in and of itself is bad, but because success cannot feed every hunger. Perhaps loneliness is inviting you, not condemning you or shaming you, but inviting you to stop performing and pretending, to stop carrying life alone. It's inviting you to tell the truth, inviting you to risk being known, and for you to ask for help. It's inviting you to say, I'm tired, I'm afraid, I'm lonely, I miss you. Maybe loneliness isn't screaming, something is wrong with you. Maybe it's whispering, you don't have to do this alone anymore. One night, Mark finally asked the question, not what's wrong with us, not why aren't we happy, not still do you love me? Because neither one really doubts that. Instead, he quietly asked, Sarah, I know we love each other, but do you ever feel lonely too? And for the first time in years, Sarah cries. Not because she's angry or leaving, not because she's been waiting for divorce papers, but because someone finally asked, someone finally noticed, someone finally made it safe. And perhaps for the first time in years, Sarah doesn't feel selfish or guilty or crazy or misunderstood. And maybe this is where the healing begins. Not with answers or solutions, not with fixing everything, but with finally just telling the truth. Maybe your marriage isn't broken. Maybe your family isn't broken. Maybe your friendships aren't broken. And most importantly, you aren't broken. Your loneliness isn't proof that something is wrong with you. Your loneliness isn't proof that love is absent. It's proof that something inside of you still longs to be known. And that's beautiful, because dead things don't hunger. Dead things don't ache. They don't long. Only living things hunger. Only living things hope. Only living things desire continued and increased connection. And your loneliness is evidence that your heart is still alive. And the greatest surprise of all is this: what we fear most may also be what we need most. To be seen, to be known, to stop performing and hiding, to stop carrying life all alone. Because perhaps the deepest healing in life isn't found in being admired or appreciated or needed. Perhaps it's found in being fully seen and somehow still chosen. That's what you've been hungry for all along. Not perfection or applause, not achievement or admiration, but a place where you no longer have to perform, a place where you no longer have to hide, where you can finally exhale and where the truth is welcomed. A place in your life where weakness isn't punished, a place where feeling or being human isn't something you have to apologize for. That place begins with courage. The courage to tell the truth. The courage to stop pretending. The courage to let someone see you. Because loneliness isn't proof that love is missing. It's proof that something inside you still longs to be known. Maybe loneliness isn't the enemy. Perhaps loneliness has been an invitation all along. If today's episode resonated with you and you've spent years feeling loved, appreciated, and needed, yet still quietly wondering why something inside you feels lonely, I want you to know that you're not broken, and you are certainly not alone. If you'd like to go deeper into emotional health, relationships, and learning how to live with greater honesty and intention, I'd invite you to visit pauseandrespond.com. There you'll find books, workbooks, articles, and additional resources designed to help you better understand yourself, strengthen your relationships, and learn how to respond with greater clarity instead of reaching out of fear, frustration, or being overwhelmed. Everything we do is built around one simple idea: that less reactions equal more choices. So if you're ready to continue the journey, visit pauseandrespond.com and explore the tools we've created to help you build stronger relationships and a healthier emotional life. And remember, being needed feels good, but being known heals something deeper. Nobody was meant to carry life alone. And perhaps the place where you no longer have to perform may be the place where healing finally begins. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm Josua Rine, and this is Pause and Respond. Less reaction, more choices.